Well, hi there. Joe Chaffee, FiOS 1 News Long Island and FiOS 1 News New Jersey.
And Joe Rayo, FiOS 1 News Lower Hudson Valley. And for those of you who are fans of this social media broadcast, you probably have noticed that it looks a little bit different than other times and other occasions.
Yeah, well, we basically turned it sideways. But don't go into the light, okay?
Okay.
Don't go into the light. Remember from Poltergeist.
It's a little bit
That's
early.
There's nothing we can really do about that. But that's part of our studio. The green screen is right behind it, and you got the bright light shining in front of it.
I always wondered, why is it that when we show the green screen on here, it never looks green? It looks more like white.
Well, because the light, you've got the bright lights are shining in that direction.
Yeah. It'd be fun if we just did it in the dark.
No, it really wouldn't.
There was a Mary Tyler Moore episode where Johnny Carson made a guest appearance, but it was during a power blackout, and all you did was hear him, but you never saw him. Remember that? And
yes.
The funniest part was at the end when they rolled the credits, and here's Mary and Ed Asner and all that, and it said special guest star Johnny Carson, and it was black.
Those were the days of incredible TV. Just like us, we're incredible TV.
Right.
So let's look ahead. We've got the weekend, we've got next week, and in my never to be humble opinion, Joe, I've said this many times. You got my two favorite phrases that have served me pretty well over the years: is the trend is your friend, and history, while it never repeats itself exactly, does rhyme. And I think that's really describes the weather pattern that we have going forward over the next week. We're going to see wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat.
Right. Well, it's hard to believe. A couple of days ago, we had all of the snow and ice and freezing rain problems. We had temperatures today, though, reaching well into the 40s, and tomorrow very well could be in the 50s. Almost spring is right around the corner, but don't be fooled. It is, after all, mid-February.
Well, I also think that what we're setting up for is, with these weather systems next week, I think there's a chance that next Wednesday could be could rhyme with what we saw on Tuesday in terms of how that system develops, how it comes out, and even there are two lead systems ahead of it, two weak lead systems ahead of it, and that has been the signature of weather systems lately, where you get these. You get a weak lead system or two weak lead systems followed by a third stronger system, and we're doing that exactly. Meanwhile, just to show everybody that the east is least from snow and the west is out of control. They're more than best. They're out of control. I put up this. This is the snow forecast from the Weather Service through Sunday evening. So this takes into account the first weather system that's going to pass innocently to our south for the most part, where you see some lighter blues there in southern New Jersey and then through Maryland and Delaware. So that looks like a coating to an inch or so in that particular area. And of course, this is all coming out of the west, the first of three solid pieces, producing more snow out in the plains. But again, another big day in the western part of the United States, where we're looking at mega amounts in some of the mountains up and down Washington, Oregon, and particularly into California, Joe, which has gotten absolutely hammered with snow and heavy rain.
The funny thing about California, I've said this time and time again, is that there's never a middle ground for them. When they get into a spell of dry weather, they start complaining about the fact that, we're in a drought and we have a problem, and if this continues, it's got to stop. But then when they get their ample moisture from the Pacific, from some of these storms, the problem there is that because of the topography, these tend to lead to an overabundance of rain, mudslides, all kinds of problems. So it's either one or the other.
Well, a lot of places down in Southern California, you see that rain that moved into Arizona, that moved through Southern California earlier today. Places like Palm Springs broke rainfall records going back over 75 years.
Right.
All-time records that went by the board. Meanwhile, you've got more precip coming into Northern California. I was noticing that they have winter storm warnings up for southwestern Oregon and northwestern Washington. I'm sorry, northwestern California and how did I say that? Southwestern Oregon, northwestern California. The snow levels, though, what struck me was that the snow levels in the mountains in the western part of the state, close to the coast, are dropping down to 1,000 feet or less.
If they get any lower, we may end up hearing about snowflakes being sighted near the Golden Gate Bridge or somewhere in the Bay Area of San Francisco and Oakland.
Well, I don't know if this precept's going to wind up extending far enough south, but the whole idea of what's been going on in the west is that you've got that deep trough out in the west, very, very deep trough out in the west, and cold enough air, and they're just getting one weather system after another. And in the meantime here, this cold front that's coming through, there's cold air behind it, but much of that cold air is going to stay back through the Great Lakes and in the plains.
Right.
And we'll get a little bit of it. The front ahead of it, Joe, doesn't have much with it. So, we'll just maybe, I thought maybe we might see a shower running around tomorrow morning, and then again maybe tomorrow evening, and that would be about it.
I think the total amount of precipitation that we're going to see in the tri-state area will run anywhere from about 5/100ths of an inch to maybe 15/100ths of an inch. Or if you want to go a different route, 1/10 of an inch, give or take a few hundredths either way. It does not look like a major precipitation event tomorrow. If you forget your umbrella en route to work and school, it will not be a tragedy if you get caught in a shower, because it's not going to be of any great intensity. And there'll also be some pokes of sun. And if we get some good pokes of sun tomorrow, we could actually go for broke before that front arrives. Maybe well up into the 50s, maybe even touching 60 in some spots, especially over portions of Central and South Jersey.
We can do a little retro, by the way, and go back to Valentine's Day 2014. This was apparently the snowiest Valentine's Day on record in New York City. They got about a foot of snow.
I remember that. You know how I remember that? I was in a hotel. I was put up by the station and the television station I was doing back then, and it was a pretty large-scale event. And I remember waking up on Valentine's Day morning, looking out the window and saying, "Oh my goodness, this is not good." That's 5 years ago. It
was a nice wrapped up little low off the North Carolina coast. We had certainly plenty of cold air around, and I was kind of struggling a little bit to remember this, but it seems that we had a ton of snow with temperatures in the 20s, and then it seemed to change over to sleet and freezing rain in a few places, and then back to snow on the backside.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to go back and look at this event specifically. But it was a big snow producer. It was a nice little low that ran up to the northeast. Just in case you might think that it just never, because of what we're seeing this winter, that it may never snow again. You can go back and retro snow, in a sense.
You could think back. But the one thing that's interesting about this particular winter, Joe, is that all of the potential snowmakers, or all the big winter systems that have passed on through here, it's been a case where it's been just too darn warm up in the top levels of the atmosphere and cold at the bottom. And that's why we haven't been getting a pure snow. We've been getting snow to ice to sleet to freezing rain most every time.
And there's your ridge in the east, trough in the west, because at the higher levels of the atmosphere, when you got a ridge in the east, like we kind of do now, you're going to warm those upper levels of the atmosphere, but not necessarily warming up the bottom of the atmosphere. Right. Look at this the way that the whole trough in the west. I mean, it just dominates so much. And even when you get a system to shoot eastward as it pulls away, what happens? The ridge comes right back up. This is the middle
right back up.
Yeah. And in this instance, Joe, with the trough so far west, even though there's energy getting kicked out, it's getting kicked out into that ridge position. You have to wonder how strong could anything be in a setup like this. It doesn't look to me like if this stuff from the west is going to be coming out in pieces, that most of these systems could wind up being more on the weak side than anything else.
Right, and here, I mean, this is for what now? This is
next Wednesday. I've already rolled it through.
20th of February, and there's a potential kicker, or a Baja low, if you will, down in the southwestern part of the country. But where could it possibly go with that strong ridge? The only thing it could do is kind of like shear off to the north of our area.
Which is what it does, and then after it goes by, guess what?
Guess what?
Pops up again. Now it's the 26th of February.
Right.
We're at just about to the end of the month. I did a little analysis today, and if you read my post on meteorologistjoechaffee.com, you got a leg up if you want to read more after I do this, because it explains it a bit better and goes into it a bit more, considering how much time we have. But I'll just give you give everybody a quick view. But here's the problem, and in the West. It's a mess. The Pacific is an absolute mess. I mean, people are kind of speculating, Joe, about, well, is it the lack, we have no blocking. Well, that snowstorm that I showed you in Valentine's Day 2014, guess what? We had no blocking then either. We went those 2 winters there, 13-14 and 14-15, which were both very dynamic winters. We did every snow event in those winters with hardly any blocking at all. So that, I don't believe, is the of all the problems, if you want to list them, I think that's at the bottom. The NAO is overstated and overrated. I think that's at the bottom of the list. But I mean, this Pacific is just horrible. You got this fire hose that goes halfway across. There's a weak trough there west of Hawaii that breaks it up. Big deal. But you've got that ridge up in the Gulf of Alaska that goes up to the Gulf of Alaska that's really strong. So you've got to have this corresponding deep trough on the other side in the west, and then you're going to have the corresponding big ridge in the east.
Right.
And the other thing is, Joe, there's nothing here, to me. I mean, there's nothing here that suggests that something's going to come along and rearrange all this. It's just going to kind of hold, and every time something moves along, something else comes back to something that comes right back and replaces it.
We haven't looked at the stratosphere. Do you want to?
No, we can. We can look at that. Let me. The other thing I want to, while we have this on, this part on, a few people I've noticed are getting all excited about the fact that, well, the Madden-Julian oscillation. Apparently, right now it's in phase 8. Oscillation of winds in the Western Pacific and in the Indian Ocean. It has an impact on weather, and there's different phases of it. And there's 8 phases. When it's in phases 8, 1, and 2, that's supposed to mean that the East is supposed to be having cold and snowy weather. Well, guess what? It ain't working.
It ain't working.
And I wonder whether it's because perhaps you've got the Madden-Julian oscillation. It's all fine and dandy that it's in phase 8, but it has to connect to everything going on in the Pacific. And if it doesn't connect, then if it doesn't teleconnect,
right,
then they kind of operate as separate entities. And maybe that's what's happening here. You've got the oscillation where you think it's supposed to be, but the Pacific jet is just simply not cooperating.
Right.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I could be off base, but that seems to make sense to me in my head.
Well, maybe dare I say, if we don't get it in March, maybe something abrupt will take place in April. Now,
and by that time, it's like, please go away.
I did a little bit of study on my own, and I said to myself, so when is it that we could say that the chances of a significant or heavy snowfall has pretty much gone by the board? And I've often in the past thought of St. Patrick's Day. I said anything beyond St. Patrick's Day you'd really have to work at it to get it to happen or whatever. But I was kind of surprised. Looking at some of the heavier snowfalls in New York City weather history, there have been a number of cases that have gone into the early part of the first week of April. And one of them was, in fact, one that you and I remember, 1982, April 6th. It was a blizzard.
Right, but it would have to be an anomaly to the overall. It's going to be an anomaly to the overall pattern.
Right.
You're going to have to hope that at some point this pattern that we're in gets interrupted, where it relaxes enough to allow room for something to happen. And right now, I'm not seeing any kind of relaxation,
right,
at least going for the next 10 days or so.
I'm just throwing something out to all the snow. In fact, I posted something on my Facebook page today saying, you think about this, Joe. If you or I were told back in November or December that, hey, we can see in our crystal ball,
right,
that this coming winter season, there's going to be a storm on Lincoln's birthday, February the 12th, that is going to drop more snow in that one single storm than fell through in the entire month of January.
And it's an inch.
And
or 2 inches.
The only problem was that in January at Central Park we had 1.1 inches.
I know.
And Central Park on Tuesday we had 1.2 inches. So there you go. It was more than the entire month of January, but it really wasn't all that much.
No. Here's the other issue, I think, Joe, that's really important. When you look at the Atlantic, you've got this monstrous low that is sitting southeast of Newfoundland in the central Atlantic. I mean, that thing is huge. And all that really does is that it drives a big ridge to the west along the east coast and up, and it drives another big ridge on the other side in Western Europe, and that's it. There's this.
So is this an omega block, in a way?
Just it could be, but it's well, maybe it is, and it's just not a good one.
Yeah,
it's in a horrible position
for
snow lovers.
Position. If you want snow and cold weather, we're in a horrible position because we're literally right underneath the ridge. And the ridge keeps poking up every time it gets knocked down. It's taking a licking,
and it's
keeping on ticking.
And it keeps popping up because you've got this animal out in the Atlantic, and that's and it's not going away anytime soon.
Wasn't that like the animal that we had, like 2 or 3 weeks ago? Over the Great Lakes, remember that? We had that one gigantic...
The big vortex, well, it's not the same one, but
right.
No, but it's similar to that, just it's way out there.
Right.
And now here's how it looks with these systems coming along. I just broke them all down. So this is the one for Saturday. I thought maybe, South Jersey might get a touch of snow out of this, and then that goes out. And the system number 2 is on the center left of the picture, if you can see it there, and that comes out. And you got these weak systems coming out 48 hours apart, so right. It's one after another. So on Sunday night, Monday, to me, Joe, this looks like if it's a little stronger, it's going to be more rain. If it's a little weaker, it might be more snow, but it'll be it'll be very light. Yeah, so
a cheap thrill,
exactly, or even less than a cheap thrill. And then jump to Wednesday. Now here's the one where I think it could be a repeat of what we just had, maybe a slightly less wrapped up low, but it still looks to me like we're going to take a primary low, go west of the Appalachians, a secondary, the high kind of tries to wedge down a little bit. This is going to rhyme with last Tuesday, right. Whether the outcome is the same in terms of what we get snow-wise and sleet-wise on the ground. That's a story for later in the week and early next week when we get closer to it.
Back in the day, we would just look at, arbitrarily, we would look at long-range maps and we'd say, where's the 540, which is where the ribbon, generally the rain-snow boundary line would be.
Right, that's that first blue line, everybody, right there.
And you look at this and you say, oh, well, it looks like it's going to be another rain event here in the tri-state area. But, of course, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, that's not the way it's been this winter.
That's the warm air aloft.
It's been warm air aloft, but down at the surface it's cold, and so this is why we're getting not a pure snow event. We've been getting more often than not snow, than sleet, than freezing rain. That thing that we had on Tuesday, case in point, we could have another one like that next Wednesday.
All right, so let's look at the. You said you wanted to look at the les stratosphere, les vortex polar. Which at this level, Joe, remember it went from being split. Now it's back to being one vortex, and it's a strong vortex, which is not. You want that vortex on the weak side. Actually, let me roll it back because this is at the end of the period. But one of the big things, the big difference, at this time last year, this vortex was getting ready to split, and then of course that led to the big blocking pattern that developed. At the lower atmosphere, and we wound up having the March that we had. I just don't see anything like that this time around. Look how circular that vortex is. It's not getting stretched, out like it was. Now, there is some warming here that's going on. You see that bright red spot? So there might be some kind of warming event here at the start of the month of March. Maybe it'll split after that, but then it takes a while for that to work its way down to the bottom of the atmosphere anyway.
What we saw last year and what we've seen this year, generally it looks like it takes about 2 to 2.5 weeks.
2 to 3, right.
And
at that point, you're at the last couple of the last week or so, last 2 weeks of March.
Right.
And then you're going to have to, if you're a snow lover, you're going to have conditions absolutely perfect. So we can't look at this level for any kind of, let's say, for snow lovers. I wouldn't look at the stratosphere. We already had a big split, and unfortunately for snow lovers, the trough went in the west, and that's the thing. There's so many different things that impact how weather goes, and one of the big mistake everybody makes, I believe, is you read. when you read the chatter that goes on around the social media and the internet, and they'll always point, they'll point to the one thing that's standing out that's happening, and say, and then refer to that as the magic bullet. Right now, today's chatter was the Madden-Julian oscillation. Okay, sometimes it's the split of the polar vortex. Sometimes it's the block. Sometimes it's the teleconnections. Sometimes it's any one of a long list of things. And the sad reality is it's not one thing. It's all of those things playing into each other. And it just, there's no way, so you can't really say because of A, I'm going to get B. Because you have to consider C, D, E, F, and G.
Usually at this point in time, whatever the pattern is generally maintains itself right on through the latter stages of the winter, unless we see something like we were seeing, as you pointed out last year about this time, the potential of a big block, the breaking up, the splitting of the polar vortex, which eventually led to all that action we had last March. But at this point in time, folks, we just don't see it, and it looks like this may carry over into a good part of March. Maybe, as Joe pointed out, we might see some kind of a splitting or more of a change in the upper atmosphere, but not till late in March. And then again, by that time, Joe, we're pretty far along, and things have to be absolutely perfect if you want a spell of cold and or snowy weather.
Oh, by the way, the parallel GFS becomes the operational GFS on March 20th.
Really?
God help us.
Really?
Okay? The model after 96 hours is garbage. It really is garbage. And if you don't believe me, if you remember back last week with the system from Tuesday, going back about 6 or 7 days before, Joe, you'll remember this. If I can get my window back up for some reason, here we go. You'll remember this. Remember there was a couple of runs where the parallel GFS, it was doing that primary secondary thing, and it wrapped up the secondary completely, and it had this like wrapped up low off the New Jersey coast.
Right.
Well, I happened to look at it today, and this actually gave me a whole lot of confidence in terms of my forecast. Let me bring this up first. Let's get the Les Parallèles.
I'm not happy. As
opposed to the perpendicular GFS.
I mean, I'm not happy at all that they're changing it now. In a matter of weeks, because as you pointed out, after we get past 84,
it's been horrible. It's been horrible. Even the Europeans been better than what the parallel's been. But let me just show you. Okay, so this is what I've decided. This is what I think is going to happen. It's going to be primary, secondary, weak secondary. Primary goes west up the Appalachians, just like it did on Tuesday. So here's the parallel. I think it was on this run. So this is Saturdays. Goodbye. This is Mondays, Sunday night, Monday, and then on this one, I think it was this. Here's where. It doesn't even take a primary up there. It just basically takes the secondary and leaves it out, and that's it. And I think I mean, unless it's a really, really weak system, I have my doubts that it's going to look like that. And on the run before, it was one of the runs. Maybe it was the 60 last night. Yeah, this one. This is ridiculous. There's a completely wrapped up secondary, with snow everywhere.
Right.
This is just nonsense. I mean, we're going to have to really use the new parallel GFS
with caution,
with huge caution, which is really how you're supposed to approach models in the long range anyway.
Somebody asked me, said, "Isn't there a way that they could take the NAM and extend it out beyond 84 hours?"
Well, look,
it's amazing
but even the NAM isn't perfect.
But still, coming off of that storm we had a couple of years ago, people are still like enamored with the NAM now.
By the way, Facebook started this new thing, and apparently some people are being designated as top fans on my Facebook page. I don't know if that's something that they just started rolling out, and I just happened to be one of the first ones to get it.
Really?
I am not selecting those fans, by the way. I think Facebook is, through their algorithms, is figuring out those of you who are here a lot and maybe get involved in the conversation, not just in the live videos, but on all the other posts. So they're picking you. So it's your participation in the Facebook page that is determining whether you are a top fan. Like Jason Barry is listed as a top fan, and Jason Schaefer is listed as a top fan. And I did see Rita.
I saw Addison
earlier.
A few seconds
Addison's not a top fan. No. I saw Addison is on though, but he's not listed as a top fan.
No, where's the
Addison? When you're listed as a top fan, then I'll talk to you.
Oh, I see that. There,
you see
top
it?
Fan. Yeah,
top fan. Oh, see, he's not listed as a top fan. Okay, so he just hasn't participated enough. Howard Vanderhoff of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Stormwatch page is on, and he's a top fan, and so is Christina Morel.
Well, and Ben isn't.
Well, he may be eventually. Ken Bauernschmidt, am I saying that right?
It looks like that.
Is that Bauernschmidt?
Yeah.
A top fan. Timothy Veltman. Top Scott Briller. Jason Kaplan. Boy, we're running a good list here. I think I got like 240 top fans so far. Well, anyway, thank you very much. And Matt Steckler, thank you very much, by the way, because it's really you guys that are on here on a daily basis participating in all of this that has gotten you that designation, and I think that's great. I really, I'm flattered.
Well, you should be.
Yes.
You're king of all media, or you're about to displace Howard Stern now.
Well, hey, I was searching I found some website that has a list of trending apps, and my free weather app is the top trending weather app right now, according to them.
Great.
So that's good. I just happened to share the link on my personal page.
You just happened to.
But if you haven't downloaded the free weather app, folks, it's on Google Play. And it's on the App Store for you iPhone folks and you iPad folks. So be sure to go and download it. It's absolutely free. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee got almost 2,000 downloads now and growing. So that's another exciting thing. So it's all good.
Fantastic.
You haven't downloaded it yet. Of course, you turned.
I don't.
Hold on, because we talked about this today before you came in. Because you called in because of the traffic mess on the Hutch.
Right.
I assumed you turned your phone on to call in.
Yes.
And then you turned your phone, immediately turned it off.
No, I didn't turn it off. I left it on because I figured, somebody might want to call back.
We left it on. Okay. I think because somebody tried to call back and it didn't ring. Maybe, all right, never mind. Well, since you have it turned on, when you turn it on again, be sure to download the free weather app and install it.
Okay.
All right.
Will it make you happy?
It would. It really would.
All right.
Because your face is on that app, Joe. You're right there. You're on there.
I will give you my phone tomorrow, and you can personally put it on. Leave your trademark or your imprint on my phone.
Or Mrs. Rayo can do it.
Well, Mrs. Rayo could do it too.
Then she could watch our way too long live streams.
Well, she was trying to watch us the other night, and she said she didn't get any kind of a notification on Facebook.
See, now here's the thing: if you're on, when we do the YouTube live stream anyway, when I do my YouTube live streams at 7 o'clock, the app users can watch the YouTube live stream from the app, and you will get an app notification telling you that I'm on live. So if you're, one of your problems is that you're missing live streams, well, you won't have that problem anymore with the YouTube live stream. With the Facebook live stream, I can't embed the live stream ahead of time like I can on YouTube, but after it's over, when I download this and put it up on YouTube, then I can embed that into the app so you can watch it on the replay.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah.
So in the middle of all of that, it's time for us to say goodbye because it's coming up to the top of the hour, and I have Fios 1 News Long Island and Fios 1 News New Jersey to do.
And I have Fios 1 Lower Hudson Valley, so we'll be there at 10 o'clock. And I guess we'll be back tomorrow.
Tune in tomorrow, by the way, when we'll see if Addison Green and Angry Ben show up as top fans by then. Perhaps they will trigger the Facebook algorithm so they can have the top fan designation. And to see if you have the top fan designation. And also tune in to see if Joe Rayo actually did download the free weather app.
You're going to shame me into
as the stomach turns.
As the stomach turns.
We'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Close this off.